JB, better late than never this week, but we need to take a little breath ourselves because we had a ridiculous Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and
no kidding.
It's been
you
incredible.
Especially.
Well, yeah. Well, you were in Tampa for the Bucks game. I'm sorry the result there didn't look too hot overall, but I'm guessing you probably got to see Ali Marpet, and it's been a tough season for the team. He's had a great season in terms of the contract and everything he's been able to generate from the situation, but good to see Ali doing well overall. And you know what? Who knows if the next Ali Marpet is in the batch of playoff teams and postseason teams that we're going to be talking about in this episode. We'll find out next year, technically. But first things first, let's see how far these teams can go. The bowl teams will be one and done, obviously. It's the playoff teams that may have longer to go. But I think some people don't even know how we got here in the first place, JB. Before we jump into it, give me kind of the look back here. Saturday, some great games. Sunday, the selection and the interviews that you heard with the committee chair. Monday, the ECACs. Kind of take us through your own thoughts on what the end of Week 11 into Week 12 has been like for you and for us.
Well, we saw a couple of different things. We saw a couple teams clinch their conferences outright. We saw some teams kind of back into a conference title by a tiebreaker. We saw some rivalry games that had some potential playoff impact, but ultimately not so much, as it basically at the end of the day, really only one Eastern team was kind of granted access through a sort of an at-large type of situation, and it was kind of even a closer call than we thought it might be, and we'll have more on that in a little bit. But then, the good news was for some of those teams that didn't get into the NCAA tournament, they heard their names called on Monday during our ECAC bowl game show. There were other names that got called for other conference-related bowl games, whether it was the MAC Centennial or the New England Bowl, which pits teams from the CCC, MASCAC, ECFC, and MASCAC. What did I say that again? There's a lot of conferences in New England. NUMAC, NASCAC. You saw the NESCAC champion get crowns. Hartford State. So there's a lot of stuff that happened, lots of games, and we're going to try to keep it short and recap some of it, but really focus on the postseason games that are coming up this weekend.
Hartford State, really? I mean, really? You're going to keep doing that to us? They will not be in our slides here, but congratulations to Trinity of Connecticut on essentially winning by a tiebreaker the NESCAC title, having tied Amherst in the loss column. They had beaten them outright in Week 10 during our Blitzer show. Remember that way back when? It seems like ages ago we did that show. So let's go through the conferences really quickly here and look at the schedules as well of games this weekend, and then we'll talk about the playoff games and then one of the bowl games as well in particular that we wanted to focus on. First, the CCC. It's a three-way tie. Western New England, Endicott, and Salve Regina. 5-1, 5-1, 5-1. This came down to a tiebreaker that I'm not going to bore you with at the end of the day, but Western New England wins the tiebreaker and had the best record anyway. It was overall record, actually, in their case, I believe, in the CCC. So having the 8-2 record actually paid off for Western New England, and Al Coleman and company got to, despite the Week 10 agony, they went through, thank Salve Regina for knocking off Endicott in Week 11. So Western New England will be playing at Frostburg State. Congratulations and good luck to you on that one.
tough draw, but we suspected that they were heading south.
Yeah. Merchant Marine is going to be at Endicott, and Salve Regina is going to be at Bridgewater State for the New England Bowls that involve CCC teams. So there are those. Then we move on to, let's stay in the New England realm here and go to the ECFC. And Husson, obviously 6-0, no surprise there. And they're going to be drawing RPI, which is an interesting draw. They lost to Union, and we'll talk more about the game in particular in a little bit. But look, anything's possible in this game, but you kind of almost have to throw away that rivalry game in some ways because they were already in the playoff clubhouse, maybe exposed some weaknesses of RPI in that game. I don't know, but we'll see. Go ahead.
Well, the big difference to me in that game were the 4 turnovers that either RPI gave away or were caused by the Union defense. I didn't really get a chance to follow that game as closely as I would have liked, but at the end of the day, Union basically capitalized on those turnovers, and that led to the 27-point win. So I think RPI can play better than that. Husson has a lot going for itself as far as its offense and defensive balance. I do think they're going to give RPI a tough game, and the Engineers haven't really dominated or blown anyone out this year. They've been sort of tough, physical, old-fashioned football games, and this should be another one just like it.
NewMac, SUNY Maritime at Springfield is the New England Bowl that involves a team there. Should drop that note in there as well. Let's go to the NewMac at this point, and MIT had to learn a little bit of reality late on Sunday when they heard the interviews that both Pat Coleman and our show had done with Jim Catanzaro, the committee chair, that, look, a 7-3 Thomas More team was a serious consideration for the Pool C bid, or for a Pool B bid, excuse me. And, that's something we'll talk to a player or 2 players from MIT later to sort of see if they can derive some motivation from that. But the point being this, MIT draws Johns Hopkins. We'll have to travel there. It's the only team that is not an East Region team that's in the so-called East Region bracket is Hopkins. So they're playing for a little bit of East Region pride right now. And we'll see what happens there. But they had to beat Springfield to get there. And Springfield was being headstrong in the second half, but some defense put away Springfield by MIT. And that's that game. And we talked about the Merchant Marine Endicott and SUNY Maritime at Springfield game already. So that is the status of the NewMac. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the MASCAC, I do want to bring up one issue that I brought up on the Around the Nation podcast. This was about a game that took place between Western Connecticut and Westfield State at Western Connecticut on Saturday. On Sunday, we were sent a video that we are not going to replay here. We'll just show a still essentially at this point to let you see, what developed there. This was a black eye. Now, the MASCAC has had a not-so-banner week because of the Fitchburg State basketball player
basketball clothesline.
Forum, whatever you want to call it. But the MASCAC, I don't believe, I have not seen it, did not put a statement out about a game that involved 2 members, where a melee basically developed at the end of the game. I want to say a couple things. First off, to the ref crew, I think he did everything he could in that game. I think I counted 5 or 6 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties called during the game. Their hands were tied because the rule is 2 unsportsmanlikes for an ejection, and they were abiding by that. They can't physically restrain the teams. They can't kick out players willy-nilly without reason. And so, things were developing during the game. They did the best they could with their flags, which is what they're armed with to handle it, that they could. To the schools, wow. I mean, I sure hope there are repercussions for this fight because this is really a black eye. Now, WestCon cut off their broadcast or cut off after the fact their broadcast to hide it. Now, listen, folks, that's maybe a good idea, but at the same time, you can't escape from the situation. So trying to hide the fact that it happened isn't a good idea either. What, the MASCAC not know that a video existed of the Fitchburg State incident on Tuesday night, on Wednesday when they named the player of the week and then had to vacate that and all that, and hope that people didn't see it. I don't know how this stuff works, but in this day and age, I said it on the ATN podcast, YouTube and Twitter and the such are not your friends when adversity strikes. And so, look, there should be statements, there should be some public recognition of what the ramifications were for this by the conference and by the schools, because it's a black eye to all of us at the end of the day. West County had a good season, and I wish you could have celebrated it more, even in the loss. 8-2 is still a hell of a good job that you put together, but not to be. And Westfield State deserves kudos for the fact that they beat you on week 11. And, it turned into a sideshow instead, which is disappointing to say the least. The ultimate winner is Framingham State of the MASCAC. Congratulations to them, and we really appreciated our Eli Etienne interview and the response we got from that as well. Great upstanding gentleman who I think has a bright future. They will be traveling to Brockport. So I'm not sure if the future is going to be on the football field because Brockport is obviously getting their groove back on. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But, this is a pretty good game on paper insofar as Framingham State can put up points. Now, can they break that Brockport defense is the question. Not so sure about that. Salve Regina at Bridgewater State is the New England Bowl that comes out of this conference. Thoughts as we transition to the next, sir?
Well, I think as far as the Framingham goes, I mean, they did have a chance to go up against Cortland earlier in the year, and the game was close for about a half, and then Brett Segala kind of got hot, and then that was all she wrote. I think if Framingham can take those first initial punches and play Brockport the way Cortland did a couple weeks ago, then we should have a pretty good ball game. I do agree with you, though, Frank, that the Brockport defense with all of those All-Americans is going to be tough for Adam Majinski and company to overcome. But, if Kawan Wright can break a run here and there, even if he's just getting 3 yards a carry early on in the game, the Rams can hang in there. They're certainly a proven program when it comes to making the playoffs and performing well, at least in the first round.
Go to the Liberty League. RPI dropped the game against Union 34-10 in the Dutchman Shoes game, but they will be hosting Husson. Also, Utica will be at Ithaca. So Ithaca hosting at Cornell, the Scotty Whitelaw Bowl, the ECAC game. We'll have a lot more on RPI coming up in a little bit. The Empire 8 was an easy solve as well, as it was Brockport, obviously, from Week 10 that had won the conference. There are 4 total games that involve Empire 8 teams this weekend. Framingham State at Brockport, obviously. Alfred at Salisbury in the Bushnell Bowl in the ECAC lineup. Mooresville State at Grove City, a lot more in that game later in the Lynah Bowl. And Utica at Ithaca in the Whitelaw Bowl, as we just talked about. And did you become a Grove City fan in the last 24 hours, JB? I'm curious.
I did, but before we talk about them, I do want to step on my own soapbox for a minute because one of the teams in the Empire 8 that deserves to be hosting a bowl game this weekend is Cortland at 7-3. They lost a very close game to Ithaca, and we found out on the Friday before our sort of playoff committee chair and other announcement that the Liberty League was effectively pulling out of the New York State Bowl. It was a game that we had announced last year. It was Union against Cortland. There was a potential for that game happening again, but Union hadn't really planned on it because of where they were finishing in the conference and they had final exams. Hobart came up with a number of interesting excuses, a couple of which have been proven to be false. Just kind of a bad deal for the Statesman families and friends there, and for Coach DeWall, who he thought he had the administration support for them to play in one more game, but kind of got the rug pulled out from under him a little bit late. So unfortunately for Cortland fans and for I think Hobart and or Union fans, kind of a shame there. But maybe next year, we'll see. The status of the New York State Bowl going forward seems to be a bit up in the air.
Well said. Let's move on to the NJAC here. Frostburg State taken to overtime by Frank Pippich Jr. and the Salisbury Seagulls. Unexpected. Jack Nowitzki was injured. It was impressive indeed. He had a couple touchdowns on the ground and a lot of yardage. That's a good word, Frank. In the nearly 200 range, if I remember correctly off the top of my head here. The point being, though, that Frostburg State ends up winning the NJAC title, and Salisbury finishes at 8-2, 7-2 in conference. That means that they will be playing Alfred, as we just showed in the Bushnell Bowl, and hosting at noon on Saturday. Western New England at Frostburg State is the playoff game at noon, and Wesley at Westminster, PA, at 12 o'clock. A battle between the NJAC and the PAC in the Clayton Chapman Bowl coming up there, and a team that beat Westminster this year, Grove City, that we were just referring to.
Yeah, speaking of the PAC, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have a lot more about them and their game coming up in a little bit. So you want to stay tuned. Some really great stuff coming up. One of our favorite interviews of the entire season, if not at the time we've been on the air, coming up from that one. That leaves only one, and boy, Misericordia just not meant to be. 9-1. They go 8-2 because they lost the final game of the season to Lycoming, 21-14. They were living by the sword and they end up dying by the sword in the end with these close games. And it's still a tremendous season, Misericordia. Don't think otherwise. They'll be playing Ursinus in one of the MAC Centennial Bowl Series games, 1 o'clock. Lycoming also gets a game against Franklin and Marshall at noon. And it's Stevenson at Susquehanna at a 1 o'clock Centennial MAC Bowl Series game. But Muhlenberg at Delaware Valley is the playoff game that develops because Del Valle, obviously the winner of the MAC. They would have won anyway if all they do is win that game, but Misericordia takes away the tiebreaker need as well. So Del Valle against Muhlenberg. So Jamie, what we have done is we have created a tail of the tape, essentially, of the 5 playoff games that involve East Region teams. This is 5 like last year. We had 9 teams from the East last year, if I remember correctly, because of a Pool C bid that was granted to Frostburg State, I want to say, last year. And they were kind of cast off to another bracket at the lower left, if I remember correctly, back then. This year, it's Del Valle cast off, but Johns Hopkins comes in because there were only 8 teams from the East, not 9 this year, but they did flip Del Valle because of location to the Mount Union bracket. So I think we should start there, actually, and look at the tail of the tape for that game. And it is, again, Del Valle taking on the Muhlenberg Mules, or as they call it in the NCAA broadcast, Muhlenberg. And
it's like a mulligan for that one, geez.
Yeah, mulligan. You only get one mulligan usually, and this is the second time they've screwed this up, apparently. So let's look at the QB comparison a little bit here. I want to look at that for a second. It is Michael Netkowski, who is a pretty efficient quarterback, having completed 201 of his 316 passes this season, 26 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. Only 1 rushing touchdown versus Deshaun Darden, who also efficient, but much more of a run-heavy quarterback with 10 rushing touchdowns, 19 in the air, 3 interceptions. This is one of the best games on paper. It's one of the few ranked versus ranked games that we have in the entirety of the brackets, especially on the right side of the brackets. So take me through this game. What are you looking for in this game with basically 2 teams that are both plus 10 turnover margin? I mean, again, on paper, this looks like a great matchup.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it might be a turnover or 2 that will end up deciding this one. I mean, last season, Del Valle's defense really carried them and created a lot of turnover opportunities. They're a bit of a younger squad this year, and while they've been stout, they haven't been as dominant. So you've seen Darden have to play a bigger role, and sometimes rallying the team and kind of leading them both with his arm and legs, because he is a mobile quarterback, and that could be the X factor that Muhlenberg could really struggle with, due to the fact that Darden really is that dual threat that can get outside the pocket and make some plays.
Yeah, this is going to be very, I want to say, high scoring, this game. I think it's got that opportunity to be in the 30s.
Over 30s each, I would say, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I said that in ATN. I'm sticking with it even after doing more analysis of this game. I think the defenses are going to play big roles. Don't get me wrong. There are going to be times in the fourth quarter especially they're going to have to step up to win this game for their team. But the offenses are going to have to play, catch up with each other in what I would call a minor shootout. But I think it's going to be a leg out as well when you think about Darden's running ability. His ability to run opens up his own pass game, and that's an impressive part of him, especially because that offensive line has been doing a great job of protecting him this season. We didn't think that was going to happen coming into the season. But Muhlenberg, I want to say, played the tougher schedule of the batch, is more playoff ready because I think the MAC was just having a down year overall. It's not take nothing away from Misericordia, but I think it shows me that they weren't the conference we thought they were coming into the season. I'm going to give a slight advantage here to the Centennial Conference's Muhlenberg team here, but this game could go either way. It's that close. And while people don't like seeing this matchup, Pennsylvania, in the first round, it's great on paper. Could have waited a round or two, like I said on Sunday, sure, but I think this is a good matchup. We don't have any interviews from this one. We do have some interviews coming up from participants in other games, but we wanted to talk about that game first and how good it does look. Let's talk about MIT at Johns Hopkins. This is another of the two inter-region matchups that we're seeing here. This one actually in the East Region bracket itself. And it's the Academic Bowl, as you like to call it, I think. And here's the tale of tape. Yeah, wicked smart, and the tale of tape shows that they are wicked good as well, as Udgam Goyal, and I can't say the name to save my life, so I apologize to
Udgam Goyal, the senior quarterback from MIT. Yeah.
He's 139 for 244 passing. Not the greatest passing numbers you'll ever see, but he gets the job done. That's the biggest thing about him. His end-of-season numbers kind of tailed off, too. I'm not going to lie. But, again, did what he needed to do. 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And let me just say David Tamara from Johns Hopkins, 3,009 yards passing, which almost doubles Goyal. 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 4 on the ground as well. He's something else, that Tamara guy. On paper, this looks like Johns Hopkins game all the way. What are you thinking on this one before we go to the interviews?
Well, I think it'll depend on the MIT running game. Honestly, that's what's helped them balance things out, especially when Goyal's arm has been struggling, and he may have had a shoulder injury that held him back in games like WPI and in the colder weather. But
so we talked to Udgam Goyal and to Dallace Francis, who is a senior linebacker, if I remember correctly, for MIT. And you had the first question. Here's the interview we had with them about this game against Hopkins.
Well, guys, it's kind of like a full circle moment because as incoming recruits, MIT had its best season, went to the NCAA playoffs. You guys, kind of gutted out some tougher years as underclassmen, but here you are with 9 wins and heading back to the NCAA playoffs. How does it feel?
Well, it feels really great. I mean, it really feels awesome to be able to sort of develop from, our first season here when we were, I think, like 2-8, and sort of winning more and more every season, and then finally ending with a season where we're, NEMAC champions and going to playoffs for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's pretty special because I feel like this is like our team, right? New coaching staff, obviously, and nobody on that old team is on this team, so we feel like it's not like a continuation of their stuff. Obviously we look up to those guys and we're like super proud of those guys, but I feel like what we've done is ours, which is special to, I think, everybody on this team.
Now, Dallace, I was looking back at your stats for the last few seasons, actually, and it's noticeable. A couple of years ago, you played 10 games. Last year, you were in 3 games, I think, and this year, again, in 10 games with some really nice stats across the board. What happened in 2017, for those that don't know, and how have you parlayed that into the success that you've personally experienced with the team in 2018?
So 2017, in our second game, I suffered a knee injury and unfortunately couldn't play the rest of the season. I was working all season, all off season to try and get back on the field. And I don't know, I feel like I brought a lot of I think I brought a lot of passion this year because, you only get to play so many football games and I missed the whole year. So, I mean, I was, I guess, a little selfish in that, but I think it translated over to the rest of the team, and yeah, we had a great year.
Great work.
So I saw some of the YouTube clips and the interviews after you guys won the NEMAC title and the celebration and the excitement around that. Tell us a little bit of what it was like on Sunday when you guys were waiting to hear whether or not, because there were some questions around whether the NEMAC would get that Pool B bid or not. It looked like it was likely, but I mean, did you guys all get together as a team and watch the selection show? What was the reaction when you guys heard that you were in the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all were, we were all anticipating hopefully getting in, but we weren't sure. So we all, came together in one of the rooms at MIT and watched the selection show together. And then I think ours was like the very last selection. And, once we got in, I think everybody was really excited. Lots of cheering, lots of excitement. So, just really happy to be part of playoffs this year.
Dallace, let me ask you. We had talked to the committee chair, and we didn't really necessarily see the answer to the question being that a 3-loss Thomas More team actually had a lot of consideration versus a 1-loss MIT team. Does that strike you guys as a certain level of disrespect as to the type of team you are, and are you drawing some motivation from the fact that that was actually said in the discussion this weekend?
Yeah, I think we are a little disrespected, and it fires us up, definitely. Just pretty much the whole season, right? Coming in, first game of the season, I think we were projected to finish tied for 3rd or tied for 4th in New Max. So that carried us for, say, like the first 3/4 of the season. And then we were projected, once we lost that first game of WPI, we were projected to lose to Springfield in our final game. And that really kind of drove us to, want to prove everybody wrong. And now, coming in on the selection show, we got the last spot that they announced, and that this all fires us up and really gets us going. So yeah, I think it is. A lot of people are underestimating us, but hey, we're fine with it because we'll go out and we'll play our game and we'll show them what MIT football is all about.
So this weekend's game is like I know we've heard things like the Academic Bowl, the Brain Bowl. MIT is realistically probably the best school in Division III from both academic and football wise, but Johns Hopkins is probably number 2. we got like a whole field full of future doctors, lawyers, engineers, all these really smart guys. But the Blue Jays are a pretty tough team too, and they have a lot of playoff experience. They move the ball well. They play tough defense. They've been going in. Coach Bubna may harken back to when our alma mater Hobart knocked them off as an underdog, so maybe he'll channel a little bit of that. But have you guys started taking a look at the tape on the Blue Jays, and what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can speak from their defense's perspective. I think that, our offense, specifically, I think their defense is very stout. I think they have a really good team all around, and I think we're just going to have to play our game and sort of attack where we think could be best using our strengths, which is our, getting the ball to our skill players and let them make plays on the outside. So at least from the offensive perspective for us.
I can speak from the defensive perspective of the team. Their offense is really good. Their quarterback is averaging 300 yards a game or something like that. They have a really good running back. They have really good receivers. But I think time and time again, our defense has showed up. So I wouldn't doubt us at all. I think we'll be fine, but it'll be a really good game.
I was assigned to do the playoff capsule on D3Football.com for your team, and it was tough for me to pick the turning point of the season, which is one of the questions that we were asked to fill in, because I could have named a few things. Hanging on, I think, versus Endicott earlier in the season was one. That's sort of parlayed you guys into, I think, that undefeated team for as long as you were. The loss itself could have been the turning point to sort of give you guys an ejection of, we got to win everything left on the table type thing. If you guys had to name your turning point of the season, what would it be?
I would agree with you about the WPI loss. I think that really got us going because, I think we had been having a great season, and seeing us finally take that first loss, I think that really got us fired up and sort of motivated to be like, okay, we really need to win out to even have a shot at making playoffs and winning the NEMAC championship. So I think just putting us in that position where we really knew we had to win, I think that really got us going and was really a turning point for us.
I agree with that as well. The WPI game, it's still on everybody's mind, and it still kind of fuels us. I don't know. We feel like we were the better football team, and the Carson fall in our favor, but it's definitely been motivation for us for the rest of the season.
Well, you guys definitely bounced back well, for sure, because you are heading to the playoffs. JB, I know you got one more.
Yeah, so Udgam, you're from Frisco, Texas, a place I used to go visit for work back when I was at Bank of America on a pretty regular basis. And in Dallas, you're from Georgia, and not too far from me here in Florida. You guys have one of the most national rosters probably in the country because of the recruiting base that you have. I mean, is this going to be a big homecoming game for a lot of the guys on the team? I mean, Baltimore is about halfway down the East Coast, so it's not too far from the South, it's not too far from the North. How does it, tell us a little bit about, is there going to be a good crowd there pulling for the Engineers this Saturday?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think we have a lot of alumni coming in from the DC area, from the Baltimore area, especially people from the South where, Baltimore is definitely a little closer to them. So I think there are a lot of alumni coming. So it'll be great to get their support and great to see, people who've been in the program, 5 to 10 years ago and seeing them come back and support us right now. I think that'll look pretty special.
Dallace, any family coming up?
Not for this game, but they came up for the senior week, but yeah.
Awesome.
Well, no, actually, distant cousins are actually coming up. So family I haven't seen them since I was like 10. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited.
That's great. Well, listen, for any family that may be watching this, even though we're doing a little shorter interview modules here, as we call them, we are still offering shout-outs to our player guests, and we want you to give the shout-outs to any family, friends, teammates, anybody that may be watching. We'll start with you, Udgam, and your shout-outs.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to give a shout-out to my dad, Piyush, and my brother, Naman, who will both be at the game. I'm really excited to see them. And then also want to give a shout out to my mom, who unfortunately won't be there, but will be supporting from home for sure.
I'd like to give a shout out to my mom, my mom Shaka, and I think my high school coaches will be watching this, so I'll give a shout out to them too.
JB, this is one of 2 games where we can actually root for a team because we are advertised as the East Region podcast, and Del Val, right. Muhlenberg, we can technically root for Del Val. And in this game, Johns Hopkins, not an East Region team, even though they're on the East Coast. Go figure all that out. It's above our pay grade. But, guys, we're going to root for you on this one. So do the East proud and win. And Bubna, wait a minute. Coach Bubna making an appearance.
Sorry, I got to step in. You said you'd root for Del Val over Muhlenberg. Nate Milne, Hoggard alum, head coach at Muhlenberg, Centennial Coach of the Year. So just saying, James might have a different opinion there. There you go. There you go. Looks good. Yep. Perfect fit.
Awesome.
It'll take 5 hours for him to get it off his head now. Anyway, guys, fair point, Bubna. Fair point, Coach. But before I lose complete control of the show with JB, guys, thank you for joining us. And, Coach, thanks for helping set this up.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Great interview with those guys, JB, and a lot of fun.
Coach Bubna cracks me up. the video bomb there. I mean, but he's got to give a shout out to his former teammate Nate Milne, who's another Hobart grad who's in the playoffs. So hey, the Coach Craig coaching tree is growing strong, and it's funny. Like we're trying to say like, hey, we're East Region guys here, right? He's like, nope, I'm going with my teammate.
Loyal as heck. A little bit of a turncoat on a region, but loyal to the Hobart connection as you are with your helmet over there. So right. There is that game. Again, I'm going to suggest on paper this looks like Hopkins to me, but look, MIT, they've surprised me before the season. I thought Springfield would knock them off on Week 11, I'll be honest with you. And they were headstrong, sure, we're the pride, and I'm glad they got a bowl game to at least go to here, but at the same time, MIT played a better game, especially defensively on Saturday. Yeah. Let's go to the next game and look at the tail of the tape. We'll stay on this bottom half of the bracket, and it's Western New England at Framingham State University. No, Frank, that's another game, another team. The FSU also, but Frostburg State University, and our good friend Delane Fitzgerald would probably kill me for saying that.
Yes.
Here's a game where maybe the numbers lie a little bit. I don't know. Frostburg's turnover margin plus 12, Western New England plus 15. So right there, you would think, hey, look at that Western New England defense. Alec Coleman, 1,666 yards, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 18 touchdowns on the ground. So 38 touchdowns for him. Connor Cox, 29 touchdowns total, with 6 of them on the ground, 2 interceptions, 1,887 in yardage. But again, this comes down to who have you played to get here, and that's the problem. Yep. I think the NJAC is far and away better than the CCC, and to have a close number in the turnover margin, anything over a plus 10 is a good number to have. And the fact is that Frostburg has it against the competition they played. I got to give the advantage clearly to Frostburg State. But look, you want to play a little devil's advocate here, James? What are you thinking maybe Western New England fans can hang their hat on in this thought?
Well, I think it's gonna come down to whether or not the Golden Bears offensive line can handle what Coach Fitzgerald refers to as his attack defense. They are going to blitz probably every single play of this game. And so Alec Coleman is going to need to make very fast decisions on whether he's going to throw or run the ball. He may not even have much time to decide to throw the ball. He may be running for his life if his line can't step up and protect him. They did a pretty good job of that throughout the season. They're going to be seeing some size and speed that's a little bit bigger and faster than what they normally run up against in New England. But if Alec Coleman can get some runs in, make some plays, we might have a ball game here for a bit. But Frostburg's depth and strength kind of across the board, and the fact that the size of their line, it could eventually wear the Bears down. It'll sort of depend on how things go early on, and really what's hurt, which kind of really dinged Western New England in losing that ECAC game was their secondary getting beat deep a couple of times, and you've seen them up and close and personal. These receivers for Frostburg can stretch the field. If they get behind that secondary, this game is going to be a long day for WNE.
Malik Morris and company, I believe you're referring to there. But let me be honest. I was reaching out to Coach Fitzgerald this week, and always a big fan of stuff we put up on Twitter, etc. And he saw our Grove City retweet yesterday, and was liking that. And he was still smiling from it, actually, when I hit him up to say, hey, I saw you like that one. What'd you think? So you'll see that later on, folks. But he also has been talking to me about his team's inconsistency, and it's a concern. And it should be a concern. I mean, the slow starts and whatnot are something that they cannot do in the playoffs. Now, if I give RPI a pass on the Dutchman Shoes game, I have to give them a pass at Frostburg for the Salisbury game of sorts. But it's also been a consistent slow start scenario that we've seen from his team. So, Montclair, they let them stay in that game for way too long. A couple other games this season, just not getting, that firing off situation very good. And maybe it's because of the herky-jerkiness of their schedule as well. I understand that. But again, they've got to play 4 quarters of football here. This is kind of like their dress rehearsal for the rest of the playoffs. And if the dress rehearsal goes wrong, they're going to cancel the rest of the show. They're not going to get the curtain pulled on any further rounds. So that's what they have to really look at here. Frostburg State's got to play this as 4 quarters, not just, the game. Hopefully we have a few more points at the end of the day. That's not the way that things are going to get done. I picked on Brockport about it. I mean, I have to pick on Frostburg about it a little bit. That's not the stuff that's a semifinalist type of material at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong, they're going to win this game, but those are my sense about this. All right. Maybe I should be a little careful about how I sound on some of these sometimes. Let's talk about Husson at RPI. Husson's turnover margin is an incredible plus 14. I was a little surprised by the fact that RPI is only a plus 4 because their defense plays better than that. But they have given up the ball. And they had so many interceptions. Yeah. But George Marinopoulos has given up 8 interceptions himself this season against just 12 touchdowns.
Yeah. 3 on Saturday.
Yep, and Corey Brandon, 26 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, plus 1 rushing touchdown. Neither quarterback exactly the most nimble in the world, we'll put it that way. 2,247 yards for Brandon, 1,820 for Marinopoulos. On paper, again, this looks like Husson could actually pull an upset in this game. And they might be able to. They did it against Springfield last year in the first round. John Smith, though, was their running back at the time. he's graduated. Again, I think this is a quality of the teams you played scenario, such that I think RPI is better battle tested this year than Husson. This is not Springfield 2017 you're playing. This is RPI 2018. And I just think the overall quality was better in RPI's schedule, despite the fact they only played 9 games. Again, maybe you can argue differently before we go to interviews here, but what's your thought on this game?
Yeah, I think RPI is going to be a little bit upset and looking to kind of rectify the situation of having lost their rivalry game, even though they didn't really need to make the playoffs. And ultimately, Frank, the interesting thing is it didn't seem to really even affect RPI's seeding. Honestly, they kind of fell with the opponent we thought. They fell in the bracket that we thought, and so their path is didn't really change. But yeah, I do think this defense probably feels like they have a little something to prove. I think the offense, too, because they turned the ball over so much on Saturday against Union, really wants to go out there and execute and kind of dominate and grind out, control the clock and keep, Brandon in this pretty potent Eagles offense when they get rolling off the field.
Let's go to a couple of RPI interviews in succession here that I did earlier. Frank Rossi on the campus of RPI, and I'm going to have these guys actually introduce themselves real quick, both seniors.
Jack Hoggard. Conor Davies.
So Jack and Conor, you both have seen postseason experience in your time here at RPI, obviously, and last year was a really good game against Wesley. So I'm going to start right off the top in terms of what did you guys learn last year that is going to be very valuable for this year's playoff run, hopefully, for you guys?
Well, I mean, we know that we just can't let the game, get ourselves out of ourselves, and we just have to play within ourselves. And if we do that, we can play with anyone.
Yeah, basically, I think getting a taste of the playoffs was great for us, but going out with a loss, not exactly what we wanted. But one thing we probably learned was we could play with anybody out there. Wesley was a highly touted team, went on, made a run in the playoffs. We were right there, had a lead in the first half, and let it slip. But definitely learned we could play with anyone out there.
The offense for RPI has been kind of, I don't want to call it a question mark, but the defense seems to be what people talk about right now. Do you guys feel like you have a statement to make when it comes to a game like the Husson game coming up here? And kind of take me through some of the problems that you guys have seen on film that occurred in the Union game that obviously turned into a loss.
Well, yeah, definitely the offense has been a little inconsistent this year. When we put it together, we definitely can make defenses scared of what we can do. And looking at Husson, they have a good defense. They have some good players. But if we play within ourselves, kind of like Jack said before, we think we put a game together on offense ourselves. There's not a whole lot of defenses out there that can stop us. So we just have to put it together, initiate the run in the beginning, and then let the pass spread the defense out.
Defensively, things have been, like I said, pretty strong overall. Again, though, some things went wrong in the Union game. Take me through what you guys are seeing right now and how you're going to correct it for this Husson game.
There's not so much things we need to correct. Just keep working on what we need to improve, focusing on us, taking it 1 week at a time. Obviously, it's a new opponent. It's going to be a new scheme for this offense, and we're just trying to focus on what we can do to make ourselves the best team we are, best defense we are.
When you guys came in, things were starting to turn around for this program. Obviously, there was some adversity in the coaching ranks, et cetera, and obviously it carries through in the recruiting, whatnot. You took a chance when you came on board for your football career. It's a great school, no doubt, but there are a lot of great schools out there too. Kevin Beatty will probably kill me for saying that way, but it's a reality when it comes to D3 sports. Are you proud of the decision you made ultimately? Take me through the pride that you have for this team.
I'm unbelievably proud to be a part of this team. I mean, this senior class, the one before us, and these juniors under us, I mean, those are really the guys. The guys here is what made me make this decision to come here, and is what made me so proud to be an RPI engineer. Meeting the guys in the recruiting trips, just the pride they took in the organization and the organizational culture. I knew this program was going places. I knew it was a winning culture, and I just really wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, similarly what Jack said, I wouldn't want to change where I came. If I could go back 4 years from now and be in high school again, make the decision, I would come here again. Coming here, playing under Coach I and the staff that we have here. Love playing with them. Love playing with these guys. And, there's a senior class, 27 of us, biggest senior class ever to play football here at RPI. And coming up with them from freshman year to now, we've really grown together, and I love playing with them.
Were you guys surprised at all by the fact that you didn't move in the regional rankings when it came to the loss, and how important is it to have this home game ultimately in round one?
It's awesome to have the home game. I'm glad we didn't drop down in the rankings. Expected it might happen, but we're thankful it didn't. Because like you said, we went to Wesley last year, got a taste of the playoffs, and the whole atmosphere and environment is just different than a regular game. So to have it here in our stadium in front of our fans at our school, we're looking forward to it.
What's this crowd going to be like, do you think?
I think it'll be a pretty good crowd. It's really exciting. It's ECAC's first home playoff game, so we're really excited to show the stadium to the country and show what we can do.
I was trying to think of that earlier. I couldn't remember one, and now you've you confirmed that for me at the very least. If this team, I don't want to look ahead too far, but if this team plays its best ball, how far can this team go, do you think?
I mean, the sky's the limit for this team. This is a great group of guys. I mean, if we play our best ball, I don't think we've put together 4 quarters of our best football yet, and we're looking to do that this Saturday. And if we do that, I don't think there's a team in the country that could beat us.
Yeah, like I said before, we were playing Wesley last year, a team ranked in the top 10, had a lead in the first half. We figured out we could play with anyone out there. And as Jack said, the offense, defense, special teams, all 3 click together. We're very optimistic what we can do.
First things first, a big game against Husson coming up. They put up some big numbers at times throughout the season. We'll see how this turns out, obviously. But before anything, you guys get shout-outs to any family, friends, teammates, etc. that may be watching. Conor, you're first. Go ahead with your shout-outs.
Shout out my dad. My dad was a football coach, coached me growing up, so thank him for molding me into the player I am. My brother, too. Ryan Davies and Corey Davies, shout them out.
Jack?
Yeah, my mom and my dad, my brother and my sister. I mean, my mom and my dad have supported me throughout this whole thing, and I thank them for driving me to the games and all the practices when I was younger, and they made me the man and the player I am today.
All the way from Mass, right?
Yep.
And you're a Jersey guy?
Yep.
So 2 out-of-staters whose families, I have a feeling, come to these games still.
Yeah.
And we'll be coming to a big one here at the ECAV on Saturday versus Husson. Guys, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Again, RPI looking to this Husson game. It should be a good one indeed, but I think RPI probably comes out ahead on this, and we'll see. Gabby Price probably is saying, Frank, not so fast, and he might have good reason to say that. Corey Brandon is a special quarterback for that team, and he's put up the numbers to prove that. We have one last game to talk about in the playoff bracket, and then one other game we want to talk about in general. This is going to be Framingham State University. Here we go. Got it right this time. At Brockport. Joe Germanario, 23 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, but 7 on the ground, so he's got 30 total touchdowns this year. Adam Wojcinski, is that the correct pronunciation of this?
I believe so, yep.
18 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns on the ground, so 28 interceptions. Brockport's turnover margin is interesting. Is this correct?
I couldn't believe it. When I did a double take when I looked at it. But yeah, apparently, Frank, they've fumbled the ball 20 times this season, and they've given away 15 of those. And I was like, man, how did they? And that's probably what's, when we wonder what happened against teams like, the close call against Utica, when they had the close game against Ithaca. I mean, it's Cortland. Maybe that's where the Cortland, maybe that's where the problem really lies, is that they've been a little careless with protecting the football. And so instead of putting up points, I mean, they're getting the yards in between the 20s, but they seem to be giving it away and leaving some points on the board because, normally a team as dominant as them with the negative yardage allowed all season for rushing defense, that to me is a little bit of a red flag and something that they're going to need to clean up. It's not probably going to hurt them against a team like the Rams, although Karan Wright and company, if they can get a little something going, they will be a tough out. But I do feel like, Brockport is the clear favorite here, particularly at home, and so they just need to control the ball.
We have some Brockport interviews coming up in a second here, but Framingham State +4 in that turnover margin. Again, it's who you play. To me, that prepares you for the playoffs. And obviously, Brockport's schedule against the Empire 8, against Hobart especially, those things are going to benefit them in this first game. Then what happens from there when they face either Husson or RPI? Maybe still, give them the nod there. But then that third round game is going to be a tough game no matter who makes it through, whether it be Western New England, or Frostburg State. There I go again. Frostburg State, MIT, Johns Hopkins, MIT, especially Johns Hopkins and Frostburg. It will not be easy because those two teams can turn up their defense when they need to, ultimately. JB, let's go to the interview portion that we did earlier. And for our Brockport interview, JB, we are bringing in a member of the defense and a member of the offense, as is our tradition right now. It is Rashad Baker, who is a senior defensive back for Brockport, and Caleb Ferdilus, a senior offensive lineman. Guys, first off, thanks for joining us. And second, I heard there was a pep rally today at the school. Sounds like you guys have had a lot of support in this second run at the playoffs. Tell us what the support's been like at the school. We'll start with you, Rashad.
The support's been amazing. I mean, I had to tell them today, like, even stepping out and supporting us for the pep rally in 20-degree weather just shows you the level of support and dedication that they bring. And a lot of the away games, they actually outdo the home crowd. So, I mean, we definitely have some proud Golden Eagles over here.
Caleb, in the same light, getting the 1 seed means you're going to host the first 3 games. If you can make it that far, obviously, and of course you're saying yes, we will make it that far, but we have to hedge, so don't hold it against me. But that home advantage, tell us what it really means at the end of the day for Brockport to be able to secure that home field advantage right now.
It's really great securing the home advantage. We love being home. We like people coming to us. Our fans are great. We just like everything here is just it's a big town thing. So when there's games here, everybody's ready to go. We got alumni coming back. It just makes it easier for them to come home. And now we get to hopefully get 3 home games. So it makes it easier for everybody else.
Well, Caleb, we get to see a lot of the stats in the paper and online from when Rashad's making 4 interceptions and the defense is holding people in negative yards. The big guys don't always get the same amount of love, and being one of the only returning starters from that great offensive line from last year, you switch positions. Can you kind of walk us through what it's been like for you from your perspective, how the offensive line has grown over the course of the season, and how you think you guys are playing right now?
Early on, like spring ball, we all knew there's 4 open spots. Well, 5, because I'm not guaranteed a starting spot. But we knew that we're gonna have a new O-line. We had to get after it because O-line's pretty much the biggest part of an offense, and we had to be a solid in order to have a successful offense. So we came in knowing that we would be doubted, pressure would be on us. But ever since spring ball last spring, we got after it. We're in the weight room. During spring ball, we're getting after it, getting our reps in. We actually had a D lineman come to the offensive line. He's actually starting. He's my right guard, John Demi. He got accustomed to the tradition. He got after it. Now he's getting after it on the field. It looks like he's played offensive line all his life. So
Rashad, sorry.
Do.
I'm going to bring up Rashad's Cortland game because we wanted to talk to him after it. I mean, that's what basically sealed the deal for you guys to be in this position at the end of the day because, it could have been the difference between a home game, playoffs overall. We don't even know what would have happened if Cortland was able to score that final touchdown. They did not because you got your 4th interception in that situation. As that game came along, you seemed to grow in that game, and your name became much more household material at that point in time. Take us through that game and just the imbalance in the box score. How it must have felt weird on the field knowing that you're beating this team, at least in the yardage and the disparity, what they gained, what you guys gained, and what were you telling your team as this game was developing? But you can't put them away. It seemed like at that point.
Well, I know, I would tell my team, listen, this is to get a playoff berth. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be easy, regardless of how many times we blow out teams. The conference game is always that game where it is a game, and we just had to keep our foot on their neck. Honestly, me making plays wasn't enough, and I was telling them that we just have to all come together, do on 1/11th, and when it's 0-0s, then we can celebrate. Until then, don't get down on yourself because they're going to make plays. We're going to make plays. But I tip my hat to Cortland because it definitely was a battle.
Indeed it was.
Well, a lot of times we hear this old saying about iron sharpens iron, and you got probably the best defense in the East in Brockport. what's it like, Caleb, to you basically play against these guys every day, right? It's not just every Saturday where you have to line up against against these guys. You're playing against them every day. How is playing lining up against Rashad and this defense made your team better this season?
This defense, I say it all the time, this defense is really good. So it's like we're getting after it. And it's just like it's like game reps going against them. And we're good about like getting after it. We're not saying, oh, we're teammates, da, da, da. We get it, like even in locker room, like, oh, our defense is this, our offense is that. But it's brotherly love, but we get after it. They're making us better. We're making them.
I do give him credit though. They in the 2-minute drill, they have taken us down like the last 4 out of 5 times, something like that. So
all right,
we do. We battle.
Well,
we act
Caleb, just to expand upon that, one of the things we used to talk about last season was Joe Germanario was having some happy feet sometimes. When we saw you guys play in person in week 1, he was a little bit more of a pocket passer. Is that something that the coaches get on for, as his O lineman be like, come on, man, you stay in the pocket, we got you, don't be running around. What did you? How has your relationship with Joe G been this season?
We all love Joey G. I love Joey G. I try to tell him, hey, listen, let's run the ball. He's like, I got you. Game comes, he's throwing it. I'm like, you know what, Joey, you do your thing. I got you no matter what. So the O-line, we know we got Joey. He got us. So whatever he's doing, I trust him. I'm going to just let him do what he got to do.
Okay, who just crawled out of the shot? Who just crawled?
I don't know.
That might have been my position.
That's staying in. I'm sorry. That is absolutely
real.
staying
That's
in.
making the real for sure.
So, guys, you're seniors. You have seen the rebuild of this program essentially under Coach Mangoni and Coach Potter and all the coaches over there who've done a tremendous job. How proud are you of what it's taken to do this and where you guys have gotten this program? And let me ask you a second question, if you can stack your answers, basically. Which was harder, last year's regular season or this year's regular season in terms of compiling the 10-0 records that you got both years? Start again with Rashad.
Well, yeah, you did ask a lot. First, as far as the 10-0 seasons, I feel like this year was definitely the more difficult one. And I would only say that because last year we weren't really known. We were like the underdogs, and we were just, coming after people. This year, the X kept growing back, as Coach Mangone keeps reiterating each week. And that's the pressure year. That's like, it was almost a question of, did we have a good year or are we a good program? Did we start something? Like, is this a legacy now? Is this like a standard to win the Empire 8? So I definitely feel like this year was the most difficult year to maintain the 10-0. And then, do you want to say anything about that?
I don't know which one was the hardest year because I feel like we did great both years. I'm not saying anything against our opponents, but like there were struggles in both years. Last year we were just like, oh wow, I guess we are good. And then this year we're like, we know we're good. We just got to make sure we prove that every week. So there's challenges in both seasons. And it was just great to like come in here. First freshman year I came, went 5-5, but we've gotten better every single year. And it's just that's what you want out of a program. You want to get better every year. So it's been great seeing the new change in Brockport football. It's been fun. I'm sad I'd come back another 4 years if I could.
No, yeah, to see this program just lift up. Like he said, we went 5-5, then 7-4 our sophomore year, then 10-0, 10-0. I mean, like, it's a blessing, because we've been on the other side of that. We've been blown out. We've given up leads. Like, we know how that feels, and we had to tell some of these young guys, like, listen, like, this is something that you may encounter, but it's about how you bounce back. It's about, the resiliency, like how you – and that's what we was giving up fourth quarter, like a lot of fourth quarter leads, so we had to really, like, find out, like, who are we? Who are we as a team? Who are we as brothers? Like, are we really going to war together? Or, like, what is it? Like, I remember my freshman year, I had an interview, and I had said, like, we both had an interview, actually, in the locker room. And then It was like a recruiting. It was like a recruiting video. So then, yeah, and then I had talked about how like I just want to leave my legacy here, and I think that I truly followed through on that. Just because we built this program, we turned it around, and we'll be back with expectations, for these younger guys, and then sky's the limit.
Well, you guys have an important game this Saturday against Framingham State. Not a pushover at this point. Everyone's conference champ and solid football team. And Framingham, to their credit, has been one of the New England schools that has gone out and aggressively scheduled a lot of teams from New York and other places. Rashad, Caleb, what have you guys seen, at least initially on tape, about the Rams? What do you think about this weekend's matchup from a defensive and then an offensive perspective?
Defensively, I'm going to just be honest with you, they're going to have to adjust to us. Like, we've said that week in and week out. Like, not even like in the most humbling. We're going to come out and do what we do. You know what I'm saying? And I respect this team because, like you said, we're all conference champions at this point. So it's win or go home. Like, anybody can beat anybody. So I think it should be a battle.
From an offensive standpoint, they are good. They're playoffs, so they're all going to be good. We're not taking this team lightly. As an offensive line, every week Coach Potter says we have like a standard. We don't play down to nobody, and we don't let anybody outside us. We have a standard. Let's go out there and play how we play. So we're just going to come out and play like we play every week, week in and week out.
So, guys, before I allow you to have shout-outs, a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago, I had said some things on the show to maybe the tough love moment I share with you guys here. Yeah, where I basically said, it's winning by 16 against Utica wouldn't get the job done in terms of being a semifinalist again, and that seemed to spur some tough love back at me from folks like Samborski and others. Hey, I read the tweets. I see what you see at the end of the day. But then, things obviously were a struggle at Cortland or against Cortland. And as you said, everything's going to be a struggle in the playoffs at the end of the day because the teams are good. I guess my question is, we good?
I think we're good because a lot of people, they didn't hear the message. They heard the tone, me being one of them. But I sat down in Coach Potter's office and we were talking about it. He's like, well, you can't expect somebody to tell you how good you are all the time. Sometimes somebody has to tell you what you got to do. And I completely agree. We were slacking and we needed to get right. And we need to play football the way we play football. So I appreciate it. You weren't wrong. People will get mad, but it's okay.
Rashad, you can be honest. Don't worry. There's nothing. You don't have to hold back here.
I'm gonna be honest with you because but that game, the Utica game, the Ithaca game, those are two games where coming back on the bus, I really had to tell, because we have two different bus, offense and defense. I had to tell the defense, listen, teams in the conference are gonna look at us as if we're beatable, when we win by such a close margin like that. So I had to tell the team, yo, listen, yes, we won, and that's the main goal, to get a W, but we have to get back to the drawing board and let people know why we are top 5 in the country. You know what I'm saying? So I think that where you were coming from, I totally respect it. And I kind of felt you, I kind of felt your energy, and I was matching it. So I appreciate that somebody else saw it too. So
thank you much. I appreciate you guys. And as you know, as we've said before, we respect the hell out of you guys, your coaches, what your program has done. We want to see whoever gets through in this bottom right bracket. Hopefully, as an East Region guy, it's not Johns Hopkins, because obviously that would throw a little monkey wrench into this whole thing. But whoever gets through from the East, hopefully in the bottom right portion, it represents well in the semifinals ultimately, and gives Mount Union or whoever in that top bracket a real challenge. So here are the dress rehearsals coming up the next 3 games, but they're tough dress rehearsals for everyone, and we wish you guys luck as much as we wish everybody luck at this point in time. Before you go, though, shout-outs. You know how this works. You've seen Joe G do this multiple times. So go ahead. Rashad, we'll start with you. Any friends, family, teammates, etc. that might be watching?
I know my dad's probably watching. If he's not watching, he's gonna watch later. But shout out my dad, supporter. He tells me I do bad, even when I do good. He tells me how to be great. Just shout out all my teammates that are possibly watching. I got so much love for this program. I'm so glad I came here. The coaches, all my family and friends back home in the 914 area. Shout out to y'all. It's all love.
Probably my big brother's watching. Shout out to my big brother, my coaches back home, all the coaches here, my teammates. I'm big O-line guy, so O-line, I love y'all. Shout out to those. Shout out to the coach was good right here.
Drag him into the shot. Drag him into the shot.
Pull him in. The only coach who's video bombed us today, so get him in. Where is he?
They get so shy. Oh, there we go. Man.
Yeah.
Suit him up. What are you talking about?
Wide receiver at UB. Shout out Coach. Yeah, that's well. Shout out Coach Miller, Coach Williams with the scouting reports week in and week out. You know, half this battle on the field is mental. Shout out to those guys.
Guys, make sure that Miller. Thank you. Make sure Miller's in the weight room every day because I've called him out on this, as you know. I'm going to make sure his workout partner, Ryan Buss, sees his video, so when he's back here, he drags him there every day, too. And we're gonna post Twitter videos of Miller working out, which could be ugly, I understand. But
oh, man, that's funny.
Anyway, guys, thank you for joining us. Good luck against Framingham State and the rest of the way to the degree you do keep winning. And we'll check back in with you, obviously, as this run goes along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, JB, there's our final playoff game in review, but there's one other thing. One last thought here, but it's long last thought.
Okay.
We got to basically reveal for the first time on our show the ECAC selections, the bowl selections on Monday. And we saw some great reaction videos, Utica, some great reactions, period, just, from the tweets and the comments and the number of views. And I think
players, fans, yep.
Yeah, the number of views actually was understated because that was the day that Facebook crashed and things were going a little haywire with even the numbers.
Yeah.
While we were doing it live, we could tell. But not until Wednesday night did we see a video. We'll show you the video in a moment from Grove City. We didn't get these pairings until late, and we told this story during this interview, but we didn't get them until late. And so when we're going back to do the research on the team, we're like 0-10, 0-10, 0-10 in 3 seasons. No wonder why all these Grove City fans have flocked to our page right now and to our tweets and all this stuff. And then we saw the video that we're about to show you. We wanted to interview their coach, Andrew DiDonato, who is a former quarterback for Grove City, who's 30 years old. He'll tell you in a moment. I'll give it away right now. And, Dalton Callihan, their 4-year offensive lineman. He was injured for one of those seasons. He tells us about that. But this team was 0 for 33 at a certain point last year. They lost their first 3 games. They lost the previous 30 before that. They were 0 for 33. And they got a bowl game this year. And we didn't fully recognize how special it was until this moment right here. One more to go, and here it comes. This is another game I'm actually really looking forward to because I think this could actually test all the lights in the scoreboard. It's the 2018 James Lynah Bowl, and here it is. It is... Yeah! So Coach and Dalton, we didn't even know that video existed until Wednesday night, and we were so thrilled to see it because when we endeavored to put this ECAC selection show together, and that was JB mostly in getting that together, we didn't foresee that level of excitement, but we also didn't realize until just when we got the pairings that we had a team that was 0-10 for 3 years. Kind of getting into their first postseason game. A few years ago, this was unthinkable at Grove City.
Yeah.
Coach, How'd you turn things around, and how does this whole thing feel?
Yeah, it feels amazing. Obviously, that video, what you saw there, one of the most special moments that I've ever been a part of, just seeing the excitement of our guys and getting to share that moment and really how we did it. I mean, Dalton, the young man sitting next to me, our senior tackle, when we came in as a staff, they had just finished their sophomore year, and we had talked a lot because at that point, we were 0 for our last 30. And we just had talked about 3 things, and we said, number one, we got to have a vision, and we put forth a very bold vision for our guys of where we wanted to go as a program. And then we said it's going to be a process to turn that vision into reality. So we talked a lot about, look, guys, just see a little, and one day we'll see a lot. So we said, see a little, see a lot, see a lot, see nothing. Don't look at everything we got to do. Just keep laying brick one day at a time. And we took the phrase brick by brick. And then the last thing we talked about was love, that each of us needs all of us. We all got to speak the same language. And really that moment, getting announced to be a part of an ECAC bowl game and postseason game, for us, it was a big brick, a big step in the process of where we ultimately want to go. And for our guys, I think just that moment, what we got on video there was just the raw emotion and celebration of knowing that the process is working and that we're getting close to that vision of getting our school's first postseason victory in history.
Coach, before JB jumps in, I got to ask you a question because I was talking to a friend of ours, Steve Potter, who's the offensive coordinator up at Brockport, and I asked him this morning, I was like, hey, did you see that reaction video? He's like, yeah, but let me tell you something. I remember Coach DiDonato when he was a player. He was an assistant at Bethany, I think, at that point in time, and said he really feels old thinking about that, which makes me feel ancient in turn because Potter's not exactly old himself. How old are you, for folks that don't know?
Yeah, I'm 30 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. Switching over to you, Dalton. So, obviously you guys had beaten Westminster in the regular season, and I think it wasn't necessarily planned out this way, but they ended up, getting their bowl bid pick right before you guys. So you were really one of the last, teams on the board, and maybe that added to the anticipation or whatever. But when you saw Westminster pop up there, 3 of the games had been announced, and there was the 4th one outstanding. What was it like, for you as a player and as a senior, especially? Kind of wondering, okay, what's coming up next? And when you did see, your team's name up there on the big screen, as it were, how did it feel?
It felt great. You guys kind of left us hanging for a little bit, announcing us 4th. We didn't even know if we were going to get in at all. We were really worried about it. And then seeing your name pop up there, realizing we get to play the game at home. Another senior offensive lineman, Ethan Fry, jumped into my arms. We were celebrating. It was just incredible to go from where we were at to celebrating to get a postseason bid. And at the moment, it wasn't fun being the 4th person announced. It would have been nice being the first game announced, getting to know that we were in. But the anticipation that just built up made that video so much more special to see the joy that we all had whenever we got announced to be in the game. It was great.
Let me give you a backstory, guys. We got those pairings literally at about 11:30 a.m. In fact, that was part of the reason we had to delay the show by 10 minutes. Besides JB's,
other than the fact that I was stuck in gridlock on I-4, but yeah.
So we didn't even intentionally do it that way. But I got to be honest, the way this whole thing played out, I am thrilled we did it that way because that reaction was beyond anything we ever anticipated for the show. We're writing Facebook to make sure they add all the people in that room to our view count, though, just so you know. Dalton, what a lot of folks don't know about you is that you've not only been there for the bad and the good, but you were injured, I believe, in your sophomore year, I want to say it was, and missed the season due to the injury. Take us through your career at Grove City. I mean, this has been something else for a senior like you with the injury on top of it. And tell us what you were thinking when you saw this young guy come in and basically start to lead this program in 2017.
Well, I came in freshman year, and Coach Dino was just coming in off of being an offensive coordinator at South Fayette. having beaten me my last 2 high school football games of junior and senior year. So I knew he was a good coach, and if he could beat me in high school, obviously. So came in and got the opportunity to start every game freshman year, which was incredible. I joke with our freshmen now that if I came in as a freshman again, there's no way I'd be able to start on our team now, just how far we've come from them. Going in, planning on starting every game, sophomore year again, wanted to play 40 games of college football, get to the summer, knee doesn't feel right. I have a lot of issues with like my meniscus and my knee, so got that repaired to hopefully avoid arthritis by about now. And really just stuck with the team because you know there's something special there. Doing whatever I can, running film, helping Coach Maney, our offensive lineman, with offensive line drills, just sticking around, really digging into doing my therapy and trying to understand our plays more, whatever I can do to just get better while I'm not able to actually play. Go into that off season again, just keep lifting, keep working, keep getting stronger, come back and be able to play last year. Didn't start out so hot, but our game against St. Vincent, the night game, was one of the most special things I've ever been a part of. Breaking that losing streak was just incredible. Playing next to last year, our only senior offensive guard, getting to experience that with him was just incredible. Then keep working, get a couple more wins last year. Going through the offseason this year, still same goal, competing for that PAC championship. Got to get stronger, got to wake up, got to lift. That's how we do that. And then through spring ball at the end, getting the chance to get elected captain for the team was just another blessing, honestly. Like, it's just such a great group of guys, and seeing how they view you as a leader like that is just incredible. Then coming into the season, we knew that we saw the process pay off last year 4 times, and we knew that what we had was something special, returning a lot of players, at least offensively, that were used to playing with each other, and knowing that our defense was starting to get in the hang of things too. It's been a heck of a ride, I'd say that at least. So.
JB, they were 0-33 before that St. Vincent win a couple of years, or what was it, last season actually, 2017. And to turn it around to a bowl appearance in 2018, unbelievable. JB, you got the next question, I know.
Well, Coach and Dalton also, I mean, it's good to hear that your knees are hanging in there, but how's the heart feeling? Because 3 out of your last 5 games, you guys won by either a field goal or a touchdown. Certainly kind of a cardiac team here down the stretch, but you're winning the games that you need to, and you know, it's helped propel you to the situation that you're in, going up against a pretty tough Mustangs team that you'll see on Saturday. But how has the season been from like a roller coaster ride perspective, some of the ups and downs, and what has it taught you along the way?
Yeah, I'll start because one of the big parts of that is Dalton, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, we were 1-3, and just from an offensive standpoint, we had maybe the best meeting I had ever been a part of the Monday after our loss against W&J, which put us at 1-3. And we really focused on offensively, what can we be best at? Let's get rid of things that we're maybe okay at, but let's only focus on that which we're best at. And that's what we really focused on. And, and that started the turnaround. But I'll say this, a couple weeks ago, we were at Geneva, and we were down 20-0 at the end of the first quarter. And we come to the sideline as an offense, and there's Dalton Callihan, our senior offensive tackle. And as positive as can be, not frustrated at all, not down, just encouraging our guys, saying things like, hey, once we get it rolling, we know we'll roll. Hey, just stay focused on doing our job, we'll be fine. And I think the composure he's displayed as a senior captain, and it's really translated. I mean, he's protecting a freshman quarterback who started his first game at W&J against a ranked opponent, and then since then has won 6 straight football games, threw a touchdown with 7 seconds left to win a game, threw another one with 26 seconds left. And, I would say it's the composure and calmness that Dalton has showed as a captain, and that's translated to our freshman quarterback who's been cool and calm in big moments. And, just neat to see the way these guys have responded. And I told them this, I'll say this, and I'll end with that. It's how they responded when things weren't going well, which allows them to enjoy this moment. Because when we turned it around and we came into a 0-20 team, and that first year, was rough, just laying the foundation, they stayed positive, they stayed hungry, they stayed bought into the vision, they kept talking brick by brick, and I told them it's a lesson for them to learn in life. It's how you respond when circumstances are not going well, which allow you to enjoy the special moments we've got to enjoy this year. And I think it's that mindset that they've had and how they responded to 0-33, which allows them to then pull out so many close football games.
Adversity builds character indeed.
Most Sundays usually go after those games have been a phone call from a grandparent or a great aunt or uncle complaining to me that we need to stop that because they're going to have a heart attack soon if we continue playing football games like that. To which I reply to them, it's not any easier on my heart. It's still racing just as fast. And then I have to try to push people on top of that. So they've definitely been it's just been great being able to every win's a good win. Whenever you go 0-30, you love every win, whether it comes you run away with the game or you get it in the last 7 seconds. It's been, you just have to focus on what you're doing. Can't get upset, can't get down on other people. You just have to realize what you're doing and go out and win the next play. And that's all it comes down to whenever the game gets down to the last minute. It's, I got to win this next play. The guy next to me has to win it. And if you continue to win individual plays, you end up winning the game.
Guys, before the interview, we were talking, the recorded part of the interview, we were talking about the fact that I should go back, we do our research, and Grove City is actually considered one of the most conservative colleges in the country, according to Wikipedia, so it must be true. But Kelsey Tischler is a place kicker on your team, a junior, 5'6", 125 on the roster. This might raise some eyebrows, and yet, as you guys were telling me, she is one of the hardest workers in the team. Give us the kind of the theory behind Kelsey being on the team, how it's gone for her, and what the relationship is with the team and her at this point.
Yeah, I can start. I mean, she's been incredible. I mentioned she's probably one of the most beloved people on the team, and it's amazing. I remember her freshman year, the first day of camp, we go through just our normal testing procedures in the weight room, and she jumps on a bench press right next to Dalton and the O-lineman, and she is fearless. And she's in my office. She's really strong in her faith and asks where's the most dangerous places she can go on missions trips and things like that. So she truly is fearless, and I remember one break, she went and hiked some mountain, and I asked why, and she said because it was one of the toughest things that she could have think to do over break, and that's just her mindset. She always wants to challenge herself, and I can say it's been a pleasure. She has added so much to our team, and then I'll let Dalton share because I know these guys love her.
Yeah, Kelsey, I mean, everybody on the team loves Kelsey. Everybody on our campus loves Kelsey, I'm pretty sure. We always joke that if her and another guy on the football team, between them, you could pretty much have an acquaintance with anybody on campus because they're so popular. But she's great to have on the team. She just brings so much positivity all the time. Whether it's 6:15 in the morning to lifting, she's laughing and running around, or if it's the end of practice, the last period, she's trying to get me to jump up and shoulder bump her, and then gets upset that I don't jump up in the air. And she doesn't realize that she weighs 125, so can't really get it too hard into a shoulder bump with Kelsey. But she's just great. The guys on the team love her, and she's one of us. She's a Grove City College football player. So.
Well, guys, one of the things that's great about these postseason games, ECAC or otherwise, is you get not only one more week of practice and an opportunity to play one more game, but you also typically get to play against teams that you otherwise paths maybe wouldn't have crossed. You're getting to see a pretty solid Morrisville team that's kind of quietly eked out a very impressive record in a very demanding Empire 8 conference. They've won some pretty big games. I've seen them on tape a few times. They have a very dynamic offense with lots of weapons. Their defense can make plays. What's your initial scouting report from what you've seen from these guys from upstate New York, Coach?
Yeah, they're a very good football team. There's no doubt. And obviously, they play in a great league, and familiar with the league. So watching them play and how they've been on a run themselves, and I'd say the most impressive thing that they've done is, they do what they do, and they're really good at it. And really, what we've tried to do in our run as well is to not get cute and try to do a bunch of things, but get a scheme that works for our guys, and then just focus on, one thing we always say is don't get cute, get better. Not try to do too much, but find what we're good at and then just continue to improve in those areas. And I would say that offensively, defensively, watching them, you can tell they're very well coached. They got a bunch of good ball players, but the most impressive thing is they stay true to what they've been best at in their schemes, and their kids just are really bought in and playing at a high level. And really similarities, just watching them, learning about their program. Obviously, before Monday when you guys made that announcement, wasn't paying attention. We just would have never crossed paths, so I wasn't too familiar with them. But doing the research, very similar to what we've been trying to do, and just very impressed with them just being focused on what they can do, being good at it. They got a young staff as well. You can see the energy they play with, the energy that staff has brought to that program. So just really impressed with what they're doing, and we're honored to get the opportunity to play a very good football team for something special like a bowl victory. So it's something special. I know they're probably just as excited as we are, and we're just expecting a great football team, a great football game against a great football team, and we're honored to be a part of it.
Guys, we could talk to you forever and ever, honestly, though we do have to wrap up a little bit here because we've got some playoff games to talk about. We wanted to talk about this bowl game because not just because of the reaction, but because it is a great bowl game on paper. This should be a really good matchup. But we never dispense with this formality of the shout-outs. And so, Dalton, we're going to start with the player on this one, as we normally do. But, Coach, we're going to give you a chance, too, because you were a player not too long ago, for goodness sake. It's rare for us to be able to say that a head coach actually was a player during the broadcast, the start of the show, which is now its 11th season. You may not have heard of us back then, but trust me, we were there. Dalton, Dalton, shout-outs to any family, friends, teammates, whomever that might be watching this interview. Go right ahead.
Oh, geez. I'll just say in a blanket statement, family, because I'm sure as soon as I tell my mom, she's going to forward it to about every aunt, uncle, and grandparent I have. Friends from back home that might see it, guys here. I told Ethan Fry, another lineman, I'd give him a shout-out in this. And then all the coaches, because I'm sure all the coaches will watch this too, especially Coach Bainey.
We love Coach Bainey here because he's the one that had the best video of the three, we think, from the reaction video. He's a great producer. If he wants to leave coaching, he can come work for us. Coach, go ahead. Your turn. Shout-outs.
Yeah. Obviously, our players, staff, parents, we travel amazing. Our parents at every game, thankful for them. Our president, Paul McNulty, I'll say this, and AD, Todd Gibson. Our athletic director actually coached me here. And just the support from them has been incredible. And there's so many people I could go through, but ultimately, we all know in this profession, the wife, how much sacrifice they have to make, especially during season. And my wife is incredible. And we have a daughter who's going to be 3 next month, and we got a son who is coming on the way next month. So my wife is about 8 months pregnant, taking care of a 3-month-old, and she thought that this week would be the week I'm actually around again, and now it's probably been the busiest one of all. So certainly just very blessed with an amazing family and amazing support system, being an alum here, so very thankful for that.
Saturday, make sure she doesn't get too excited in the stands. If she's,
well, that's what she said. She said all these games, she said, I'm going to go into labor, all these 20 seconds left, touchdowns. And obviously she's in the moment. And it's amazing, actually, when just knowing that this was a possibility. She knew the other teams, and on Saturday we'd be watching live streams of opponents, wondering if this would help our chances of getting in. So she's incredible and just very blessed for sure.
Coach, one question I do want to ask you. We saw the news early in the week. Earlham is going to suspend their football operations for a year while they sort of seek some answers and some solutions to their losing streak of over 50 games right now. I'm sure that Grove City at some point in time thought about what they needed to do to turn things around, and whether or not that step was ever considered, we don't know, but obviously 0-33 was a tough step. What message do you have for the folks at Earlham, both the school and the players and their families, about what to do from here and the hope that might exist looking at a program like yours?
Yeah, and obviously feel for any players or staff that obviously situations or you never know all the details, but we were there. It's tough. I mean, when you're at that point, you've lost a lot of football games, definitely can empathize with anybody in that situation. And really, I would just say three things which helped us. And I learned this from people way smarter than me, is just to number one, start with a vision. Know where you want to go. For ours, it's to glorify God and earning a degree, building lasting relationships, and competing for PAC championships. And really having a specific vision. And we told our guys, and Dalton bought into this, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. Sometimes you can't control circumstances, they get tough. But if you have a vision you can keep your eyes on, then you can have something to have hope and look forward to. And we told our guys from day one, focus on the vision, not the circumstance. And, so when you're going to the weight room, don't think, why am I doing this? We're 0-33. We tell them, live in the why, not the what. It's not about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it. And you're doing it to get Grove City football back to competing for championships and being respectable. And so to have that vision and keep your eyes on that. Second, know it's a process. I told these guys the vision is to compete for championships, but year one, I told them it's not going to happen this year. It's probably not going to happen next year. It's going to be a process. And we laid out what that process looked like, and we said it's going to take a couple years, and just keep buying into what we're doing. And if you have a vision, you embrace, and it's going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. As much as we want quick fixes, it's not going to happen right away. And if you have the third part, love, and that's where brick by brick comes into play, is, we all speak the same language. If our president talks Grove City football, he talks brick by brick. If a senior in high school, a recruit commits to Grove City, they say, I'm coming to build brick by brick. And it's really been those three things that have helped us. It's having a vision, knowing that it's going to be a process and just understanding that, and then love, get everybody to speak the same language. We really feel as a program, it's those three ingredients which got us from 0-33 to just having a moment like you guys gave for us by having that live stream and celebrating. And, I believe that for anybody, though. I think anybody who has a tough circumstance in anything in life, if you have a vision, embrace the process, and you have people to love and support you, you can turn around any circumstance, and that's what we've experienced here at Grove City.
Coach, incredible job that you guys have done. Absolutely incredible. We thank you for sharing the moment that we didn't even know we were helping create on Monday with us. And we're just proud to be a small little part of the situation that has developed at Grove City. You seem like some tremendous people over there. Win or lose, this has been a tremendous season. Dalton, you still got to win the game. But I'm just saying, win or lose, it's been a tremendous season. So go out there and compete hard and enjoy it as you look back at it after the season is completely done after Saturday.
Appreciate it. And honestly, we just want to thank you. There's about 100 people in that room, and that is a moment I know we'll all remember forever. And just you guys providing that and just broadcasting that, you certainly created a moment that we'll remember forever, and we really are forever grateful for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Coach. And that was our interview with Coach DiDonato and Dalton Callihan. We could have gone hours and hours with these two. Just that special, those two. And thank you for that. I think we're going to actually get some of that audio of his over to the ATN podcast on D3Football.com concerning the Earlham situation. That's a great answer he gave there, and that's how he rebuilt it for sure. I mean, you look no further, and maybe Earlham can learn from that, because we want to see that program back up and running and done with that 50-plus game losing streak that everybody talks about, but nobody wants to hear about anymore.
Yeah.
So, JB, final thoughts here as we head into week one of the playoffs. It's going to be a good one from what I see here. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, typically, you think in the playoffs that the higher seeds are usually going to win, but every year, Frank, we always see at least 1 to 3 quote unquote upsets in the first round. So it'll be interesting to see if we have that here. Even though I wouldn't necessarily say Muhlenberg beating Del Val is a quote unquote upset necessarily, but there could be other scenarios. Maybe Husson RPI. Husson did it last year. Who knows? So it will be interesting to sort of see how things play out, and we'll keep providing coverage all the way to the Stag Bowl down there in Shenandoah, Texas, right outside of Houston. So no freezing cold snow for you this year, Frank. You may have to trade in your multicolored jacket for something like a vest or.
Wait a minute! Have you seen the forecast for this week? This week it's like cold and snowy in parts of Texas. It's incredible. So I'm watching this forecast and I'm like, that's not what I bought into here. I'm sorry.
Oh man, thought you were going to get a reprieve, and now the Stag Bowl football guys are keeping it cold for you.
Well, we'll have 4 more weeks before the actual game and travel down there happens. But JB, thank you for everything you did for all the stuff this week, and folks, thanks for watching us all week long. We're gonna next week have a little bit of a recap, but also a new tradition for us is kind of a what we're thankful for show. We're going to hold our Coast Guard interviews until that show, actually, for those looking for them. We had an audio issue we're working on resolving, but it's not a complete loss, trust me. But it was such a special day, and moments like those are something that we want to focus on the Thanksgiving show, and we'll recap, like I said, some of the playoff games and look ahead as well. So middle of next week will be our next podcast itself, but happy Thanksgiving if you don't see us before then, and safe travels to everyone.